Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your mindset coach this evening. Today, we're going to be talking about what is a survivor's type of mindset. And if we look at what a survivor is, it's going to be someone who overcomes the odds. They have some type of difficulty. There's a challenge that they must be able to overcome, because if they're a survivor, that means they're living still. So they were faced with something that is potentially dangerous, something that could end their life. Yet they're here still. They're a survivor. But not everyone has a survivor mindset. What does it take to get a survivor mindset? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Because having a survivor mindset in today's world is not only mandatory, it is going to be the determining factor if you're going to make it past 2022. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that videos like, and let's get into what is a survivor's mindset. Now, survivor's mindset is going to be talking about your mind with the focus of your livelihood. That means no matter what, you're going to survive. And you might have all of the odds against you. Everyone was betting against you. It's not looking in your favor. But you're the person who decides, do you live or do you die? Now, let's look at hospitals, for example. If a doctor comes in after you had an accident or you have a test result and they say you have a certain amount of time to live, what do? Do you say, thank you, doctor, I'm going to use these 3 months. Let's say he said 3 months, he or she said 3 months, and I'm going to use these 3 months to live, and I'm going to make them the best 3 months of my life. And all while you're living your life, first month, you're doing all these wonderful things. Second month, you're doing all these wonderful things. In your third month, doctor told you it's your last month. Now, what are you thinking about? Are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you as ambitious as you were month 1 or month 2? Or are you reflecting and regretting? Now, there's going to be people who listen to the doctor and say, okay, doctor, thank you for telling me that. I have 3 months to live, so I'm going to tell my family I only have 3 months left. And then there's going to be people who look at the doctor and say, you must be kidding, I'm in denial. It's not going to happen to me. I can't die. Not yet. And then there's going to be the survivor type mindset. Thank you, doctor, for that information. And you keep living your life the way you want to until the day you die. Whether it be in 3 months or 3 years, you're the person who determines your life. Now, this goes back to the mind that becomes conditioned. There's multiple studies online has happened. One study that rings true, and I'm going to read another one, is talking about how there was 2 groups of dogs. One group of dog would play and have a good time and eat, and everything was good. But then there was this other group where the dog would play and eat, but the floor that the dog rested his paws on was electrified. So every so often, the dog will get an electric shock. Now, in the beginning, they didn't see much. There was not much difference. But as time progressed, they went in to play with the dog who was on the electrified floor. What they noticed was that the dog didn't want to play anymore. The dog didn't want to eat. The dog gave up hope. He became conditioned to believe he was always going to be shocked and there was nothing he can do, so what's the point of living? Now, what they did after that, they went a step beyond. They said, you know what? Let's take the dog out of this electrified floor and let's put him just in a regular room. We're going to play with him. We're going to give him toys. We're going to give him food, all the things. The dog refused to play. The dog refused to eat. The dog wasn't getting shocked anymore, but he had a learned behavior. And that learned behavior is, what's the point? So when we look at a survivor's type mindset, we need to see that there's going to be a point for us to survive. And it's not necessarily your passion or your gift or your goals or your family. It's the human innate urge for survival. Look at the human immune system, for example. Recently, everyone forgot about it. We need something else to supplement the human immune system that has been keeping us alive all this time through all our evolutions. But all of a sudden, it's not good enough. We need something to supplement it. So now we have something that supplements the human immune system. What's supplementing our mind? Nothing. So now people are afraid of death even more so than ever. Do they have a survivor's type mindset? No. They have a fear-based mindset. They're afraid that if they get sick or if something happens in their life, it's going to be detrimental. Now, of course, we can see this as an opportunity for us to grow and be better. But that's not the case. People are seeing this as an opportunity to complain, to run away, and then to come to the conclusion that they need something in order to live. Similar to how we feel like we need the latest and greatest iPhone, or we need the most new car on the market. Now, if we think about it, that's not necessarily the case. We have to be able to come up with the real solution. And the real solution is going to be us figuring out what we want in our life. Do we want people's words, direction to dictate what is allotted for us? Or do we want to be people who make that choice for ourselves? And this podcast sprung about from a conversation I had with my mother. And of course, I was interested in sharing this type of conversation, this way of thinking, survivor's type mindset. And we're going to get into modern society in a little bit. But I do want to talk about another interesting story that I found, because this story is going to be a great example of what it is going to be dealing with a survivor type mindset. And now, of course, we can talk about what it takes to be a survivor and what needs to be done. But what I want to focus on is how the mind is so easily manipulated, how the mind can be so coarse to let in all the bad, but not the good. And the good is that we can beat it. We can survive. We're going to be okay. We allow fear to run rampant in our mind, and we don't even give ourselves a cure. We don't even give ourselves a chance at success and victory. That's interesting. So here we have a study on some mice, or these are actually rats, I believe. They look like mice. But during a study at Harvard in the 1950s, Dr. Kurt Richter played rats in a pool of water to test how long they could tread water. On average, they give up and sink around after 15 minutes. But right before they gave up due to exhaustion, the researchers would pull them out, dry them off, let them rest for a few minutes, and then put them back in for a second round. In the second try, how long do you think they lasted, though? Now remember, these rats had just swam until failure only a few short minutes ago. So knowing that, what do you think? Take a guess. Do you think it was 15 minutes? 10 minutes? Maybe 5? If you thought that, you're incorrect, because it was 60 hours. Now, that's not an error. 60 hours of swimming is what the rats did after they only swam for 15 minutes, and they were tired. So the conclusion was drawn that since the rats believed that they would eventually be rescued, they would push their bodies past what they previously thought was impossible. And if we can think about our own life and we see our abilities and we keep going and we keep trying and we keep pushing until there's nothing left in the tank. What percent are we at? Because I guarantee you, you're not at 100. If you can think that you need to stop and you need to give up, that is you telling yourself, I'm tired. Your mind saying, hey, dummy, what are you doing? This is silly. Take it easy. So what happens? You give up. You stop. And that's where so many people are. They give up. They stop. Now, looking at a survivor type mindset, if they were faced with an illness, a disease that they had to overcome, what could they do to give themselves better chance at survival? Now, of course, they can eat healthy. They can listen to the doctor's recommendation, get chemo if they have cancer, maybe try an experimental drug or procedure. They're all possibilities. And knowing when to act and knowing when to adjust your mindset is going to be crucial to your livelihood, crucial to the rest of your life. So now people are afraid to even give themselves any accountability. I'm strong enough to swim 60 hours. Everyone's still on the bottom, waiting for someone to come save them, thinking the government is going to save me. My friends are going to be there for me if I fall. When in reality, we should be the people who do what we need to do each and every day. And a survivor type mindset is going to be dealing with, no matter what, I'm going to hold true to life. I'm going to hold true to what I believe. And I believe in me. I believe in my capabilities. We have some examples. Treadmill. If you're working out and you're on the treadmill and you're running and you want to stop, don't. Keep going. Push past that wall in your mind that says to stop, because the brain wants to take it easy. The brain doesn't want to use all its energy. Your brain is wired to conserve energy, to save energy. So if you're over here thinking that you don't have more in the tank, that you don't have any more life, that you're not able to survive because you need something in order to be okay, you're under the wrong type of mindset. You're going to be under a mindset that's going to be susceptible to anyone else's influence or opinion. Now, is that a good thing? It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a way of life, of you living. Now, what I do is I help empower people to adjust their way of thinking. Because if they don't have what they want, most likely they're thinking incorrectly. And these are the same people who think their partners are going to make them happy. They don't. You make yourself happy. Survivor type mindset is not going to say, well, the reason I couldn't survive in the forest was because my partner didn't cut any firewood. Okay. So they're to blame because you don't have any firewood and you froze to death. No, you handle your own business. Though it's going to be a lot of work, though it's going to be challenging, though it's going to require a large amount of resilience, you can do it. But people are not willing to do that. People want easy. I tried for 15 minutes and I gave up. And then after someone saved you, and then all of a sudden now we're thinking in the back of our minds, oh, I'm going to wait. Someone saved me 15 minutes ago. They'll come save me again. I have faith. So we put our faith in the government. We put our faith in science and doctors and friends and family. But they don't have the same interest that we do, because our mind wants to keep us alive. Of course, we can love our family and want them to live and be happy. But the brain, your brain, wants to keep you alive, not the other way around. Now, there's going to be a few people who are able to get around that way of thinking and sacrifice themselves for other people. But it's not going to be the majority of the populace. So the majority of the populace is going to be thinking, I have to do what's best for me. Why do you think everyone is living their own lives? Why do you think everyone is so concerned about what they need to do? They're not worried about what their neighbors are doing or their friends are doing. They have their own to-do list. You can't worry about everyone, because if you did, you wouldn't have enough time to do anything that you need to do. So survivor's type of mindset is going to be talking about what needs to be done in order for you to survive. There was another story, similar to the dog story, similar to the rat story, but this one is dealing with a child. There was an NFL player who had a daughter. The daughter was young, about 5-6 years old, and she developed cancer. So the story is going to be talking about the journey that the daughter had to go through, the chemo, the nights of throwing up, feeling tired, things like that. Now, the father knew what cancer was, and he had money, things like that. But he knew this was going to be a rough road for his daughter. So before the daughter began chemo, before the doctor could come in and say she had a certain amount of time to live, he told her, the father told the daughter, the parent told the child, you have to do me a favor. He said, when you want to quit, don't quit. And he was a football player, so he says you have to make it into the end zone. Don't quit. Keep running. Don't stop until you get into the end zone. So he was using familiar terminology for him. And even though he had his daughter sick, saw her sick, weak, he was hurting too, right? He doesn't want his daughter to be sick and to have to go through this. He would trade places with her if he could. That's what a parent would do for their child. But this was a battle that the daughter had to fight. And the only thing the father could give her was a mindset that was for a survivor. As the chemo went on, as the treatment went on, there was a day where the father and the daughter were in the room, and the daughter was trying to draw. And she was asking for some crayons, and the crayons were maybe just arm's reach away. And she was saying, Dad, can you get me the crayons? And Dad was looking at her like, the crayons are right there. Why can't you get them yourself? And daughter was like, I'm just too tired. I can't get them. Like, I don't have enough strength. And the father says, no, you're going to get them. So the father didn't give the crayons to the daughter, right? You might think he's a bad father. He's making his poor sick daughter having cancer to push herself. She should be resting, quote, quote. The father knew. He said, get the crayons yourself. And she was like, I'm just going to go to sleep. He's like, no. You remember you promised me in the beginning of this? And this is months after now, that we're going to keep on going. We're not going to stop. We're going to make it into the end zone. That's what happened. And that little spark rekindled again in her mind. She was like, you're right. I have to make it into the end zone. So she reached, she got up, she struggled. The father was there to support her, of course, as any good parent would. Then she gets the crayon, starts coloring. Not for too long. And then when she's done, she goes to sleep. And the father just says, I'm proud of you. You can do this. You can beat this. And then she went to sleep. What do you think happened after that? Of course, the father is, he's a total wreck seeing his, baby girl that week. But he knew he had to be strong for her. He already gave her a survivor's type of mindset. You have to make it into the end zone. You have to keep going until you reach the goal, until you reach the end. And the next day, they run some tests to see what's going on, if the cancer is still there. And come to find out, long story short, she beat it. She was cancer free. She made it into the end zone. How did that happen? Did it happen because the doctor said, oh yeah, we're going to give you this treatment. You should be okay. No. It happened because the father told the daughter that she needed to be a survivor, that she had to finish. And even through the most difficult times, he pushed her. He kept her thinking, kept her on her toes. I'm not going to hand things to you. I'm not going to live your life for you. I'm going to support you as much as I can, but this is your life. And if you want it, you have to fight for it. And that she did. And she won. A survivor type of mindset. And we're living in a world now where all of a sudden you get sick with a virus, people think it's the end of the world. I was talking to my mom about this. What does that mean? People are on their beds, sick, coughing, can barely get any oxygen. Their face is turning pale. Do they choose to keep on fighting for life? Or do they choose to close their eyes? Or do they choose to close their eyes and say, enough was enough. I lived a good life. I have no regrets. Do you have a survivor type of mindset? Or do you have a mindset that was molded by someone else and it has their limitations attached to it? Because if you have a mindset from someone else and is not in line with your capabilities, then it's going to be time to switch what you believe. Because just because someone else can't doesn't mean that you cannot. So let's turn that type of mindset around and let's become survivors. No matter what comes our way, we'll beat it. No matter what opponent shows up at our doorstep, we will defeat them. No matter what challenges or obstacles lay in front of us, we will overcome them. Choose the mindset you carry very wisely. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach here in Texas. If you have any questions, you can email me, coachingasession@gmail.com. Until then, everyone, take care.